Hey guys, are you ready for today's October 24th, 2024, 10:41 a.m. Central Time. So I'm sure quite a few of you have heard about this. I'm taking a break, so I wanted to do a video on this. I actually have in this document, I wrote down from memory certain things that would actually apply to this regarding abbreviations, and I'm going to explain what the abbreviations are for what would be listed on a classified document, as well as some of the clearances that would be valid in this situation. So anyway, top secret documents were leaked from this government about Israel's plan to strike Iran, their retaliation, and it was leaked to Iran. This was absolutely intentional, and I am a betting woman. If I had a lot of money, I'd go on one of those betting sites that you can bet on anything, and I'd create a category and bet a huge sum that they know who did it. And it will, I don't know if it'll ever come out, but they know who did it. Apparently Austin, had a press conference or whatever, and he was asked if it was intentional, and he just danced around it, which is obviously very interesting. He could have just said no, period. Even if it was intentional, he could just say no, but whatever. So before I get into the abbreviations and the clearances, though, since I was in intelligence, for this type of stuff, too, because it's a foreign intelligence, and that's what I dealt with. I don't know if I would have actually had access to this particular thing, but since I dealt with foreign information, I kind of know how you can get a hold of that stuff. You sometimes have to go into a SCIF, and sometimes you go into a SCIF type of building regarding the military people, where you can't bring anything with you, phones, otherwise, blah, blah. Like, sometimes they won't even let you bring anything, like even a fucking tissue with you. You can't have pens, pencils, nothing. You can't print anything. You basically have to look at whatever you're looking at and remember what it is that you just read and saw. There's no internet access to these things. They're totally secure systems. They're not attached to anything. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure how the documents get on those computers sometimes. And then there's also instances where you go into the SCIF or that secure building, and they'll hand you the paperwork versus getting on a computer. So you actually have the paperwork in front of you, and that was the whole thing about Biden when he was a senator. He shoved, some stuff down his pants or some shit and brought it to his house, and then they found it there. So you could do that type of stuff, but you're supposed to return it as you're walking out. So sometimes it is papers, but you have to turn them in when you leave. You have to sign in when you go into these buildings. You have codes, okay? So for me anyway, I don't know about senators, probably just use their names, but we had code numbers that had nothing to do with our military numbers. To, know who was going where and when they were there. They log how long you were there, all that bullshit. And someone's walking around behind you, too, that's allowed to see this stuff to make sure nothing goofy's going on. So this is really strange how this got leaked to begin with. Because this would be some serious top secret level shit that should have been on a need-to-know basis that would have stayed kind of in the White House and with the DNI and with part of, I would assume, definitely part of the military IC or intelligence community. So it definitely wasn't distributed. And whoever did this had to have had a very high clearance, and I have quite a few very high clearances. In order to, get some of these clearances, you might as well get a fucking anal probe. It was ridiculous. Really ridiculous. They even contacted people from my elementary school I hadn't even seen since elementary. Anyway. Or someone with those clearances and being able to see those documents somehow pass them along to some jackass. Who knows how this worked? But it was intentional. So It has to be. It has to be intentional. There's no way. And why Democrats, and it's obviously a Democrat administration, and Democrats fucking hump and bow down to and love Iran, so I'm not surprised this happened per se. But anyway, I'm going to go over some classification markings first that would technically be on some of this paperwork, or could have been on this paperwork. No foreign, NO4ORN, is not releasable to foreign nationals, is something that would be used in the classification markings. HCS, which is actually AKA human, which is human intelligence. They changed it anyway to HCS. It requires no foreign to be used on that document's classification, and it's intelligence gathering by informants and requires other high-level clearances for sure. An example of how that would work is TS // HCS / no foreign, and there'd be additional actual information beyond that, but it's top secret, human gathering information, and it can't be distributed to any other country or foreign nationals. So that's kind of how that would look. SAR is special access required. It requires a SCI, which is an add-on clearance, and I'll go into that in a second. There's FGI, which is foreign government information. It requires approval of the country of origin to be shared and to whom it gets shared to, okay? So basically, like, it could say TS / there'd probably be something before that. There'd be something before FGI, indicating what type of document it kind of is, and then it'd say /FGI / dot whatever the hell that else would indicate that particular classification document. So FGI is a big deal. So FGI could have been logically on this paperwork because we have other allies in the area, but I would doubt Israel would want that on there because, again, it requires approval of the country of origin to be shared and to whom. So, like, to share with other countries. They wouldn't have control of who we share it with internally, but from other countries. LIMDIS is limited distribution, which basically means it's limited with what departments or agencies or heads that would actually see it. So, like, something that would go to, like, Biden would go to Harris. It would go to the DNI, and it could go to a very specific branch within the intelligence community that's outside of the military, like an ABC agency kind of thing. It would be very limited to those specific people, period. So if this acronym and this classification was on that piece of paper, you're talking about like a dozen people had access to this information. So LIMDIS is limited distribution. NSI is national security information. It requires special access and requires SCI add-on, which I'll go into in a second. NF, I don't know if national security information would be on there or not. I kind of threw that in there. NF requires a top secret clearance and also never allowed to be shared with foreign nationals or countries, period. So this would be more likely or not than, in my opinion, would be what would be in the classification would be the NF versus the one that allows specific governments that country approves to be distributed. Because I don't think you'd want to distribute that type of information too far, because obviously other countries don't necessarily have the same values and everything else is Western values. Like Saudi Arabia is not a Western country. They kind of have a Western culture for purposes of they're not a third world country, but they don't have the same requirements for stuff. So NF is likely what was classified on that paper. And then the clearances that I pulled up here that I think would be relevant, had a few others on here, but I wasn't going to share them. because they're not common and I just didn't want to go over them. ACCM, Alternative Compensatory Control Measures. It's an intelligence and operations clearance to see any type of intelligence that comes through, whether it be like humans or maps or types of equipment that'll be used, stuff like that. Operations, meaning perhaps even dates of how this is going to happen, who's going to be doing what types of things are going to be using, that type of stuff. And it's a need-to-know basis that's pretty self-explanatory. But if you have an ACCM, you don't necessarily get to see certain intelligence and operations because it may be a need-to-know basis. So this allows you to see it, but you may not be in the realm of the need-to-know basis. Now, what I've been mentioning is the SCI, Sensitive Compartmental Information, and I actually had this clearance. It's an add-on to it's not a clearance. It's an add-on to a clearance, so it's add-on to like a top secret clearance kind of thing. So it's almost like an addition to, if you will. And it's issued by the Director of National Intelligence. Boy, that was a bitch to get. SI is Special Intelligence. It is another thing. It's additional add-on to SCI. And that's the last one I could think of that would be valid for this. Obviously, you'd need a TS, a top secret clearance, on top of it, period, end of story. Because I can't imagine this was just considered secret or just considered classified, because those are also literally classifications too. But special intelligence is really, I really don't want to go into the things that stuff that I have, but like special intelligence gives you access to kind of everything that the DNI will allow you to see. If you have an SI and you have the SCI, you have a TS, and there's a few others, you can see a hell of a lot of stuff. If you have, an ACCM, that gives you more specifics as to what's happened, like operations, which is what I wrote there, like operations of a military movement and attack of some sort. So whoever has an ACCM, is possible that they could have done this too, and that's actually a rare clearance as far as I know. I did not have an ACCM. It wasn't offered to me. I didn't even know it existed till one of my buddies got it, and I was just like, what's that? And I was like, oh, that sounds annoying. It was never relevant to what I was doing. So these clearances are hard to get. I mean, you go through serious background checks, you go through polygraphs, you get fingerprinted several times, your retina gets, every bio of your body gets, in the system. They talk to everyone from when you were fucking 5 years old to current. They talk to your parents, your family members. I think they even went into like my fucking grades that I had, which were perfectly fine because I was an A student. But like, and if I was a D student, like I was wondering if that would even fucking matter. But like they went into, it was very violating. And you also have to take certain tests and stuff too, in order to make sure that you have a certain IQ kind of thing to get some of these, because they don't want you to be retarded. Like you could pass a background check, but you could also be a retard. So you have to pass some basically IQ tests. You have to also take some education in some of these areas, and you also have to take education into what some of these clearances are and what you can't do, and the penalties if you do certain things, and blah, blah, blah. It's a process. It is not a week. It is not 2 weeks. It is not even a month. It is like several months. And one of the clearances that I have took 2 years to get, which was ridiculous. Ridiculous. They even run your credit scores. I mean, it's so violating what they do. I mean, I get it. But, like, some of the stuff should be irrelevant. But anyway, I didn't find out about this till yesterday. And I find this very interesting. Not surprising that it came from a Democrat administration. Absolutely intentional. And they know exactly who did it. Because there's got to only be like a dozen to maybe 24 people that had access to this type of information. I honestly believe I would not have had access or clearance to see this information. I may have had the clearance, but I wouldn't have been in the need-to-know basis, period, because this is definitely a need-to-know basis documentation. So I wouldn't have been one of those people anyway. So the distribution of this and where it would have been located, it's not like it was printed out and handed to Biden and it, like, slipped through his fingers and went through some staffer and whatever. You know, that's just not how that works. That's just not how that works. And I'm not surprised that it was given to Iran. I'm not surprised that this happens to do with Iran and that it was given to Iran because, again, it's a Democrat, administration. So I really don't understand what Iran has on the Democrats and why the Democrats, since Obama, have been so diligent and forceful and, what's the word I'm looking for? Determined to restructure the Middle East around Iran, making, like, all the other countries around them, like, that are our allies, like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, obviously Israel, Jordan, all those people, basically they want them all to bow down to Iran. They want Iran to be the king of the Middle East, and I do not understand it. I don't get it, and we shouldn't be afraid of this country either about getting nuclear weapons either. So, I don't even want to go down that road. That's a whole other video. But it's like, why? Why do you guys love Iran? Why do you love the Ayatollah? What is going on? I don't fucking get it. And when a Republican's in office, when Bush, when Trump was in office, okay, Iran was broke. They were back on their heels. They knew better than to cross a line anywhere. So obviously you can put Iran in a box and you can tell Iran to go fuck themselves and they won't do much. So it's not like the Democrats have anything to be afraid of if they did the same thing. I don't understand. So top secret documents leaked from this administration about Israel's plan to strike Iran, which was a retaliation, intentional, and they absolutely know who fucking did it. This is Are You Ready For It? Take care, guys. Have a great day.